started. Street Chaser Talk Radio.
He's drinking that with no chaser.
This is Straight No Chaser Talk Radio. We're just getting started. Straight No Chaser Talk Radio.
He's drinking that with no chaser.
There she is.
Hey, folks, how are you? Welcome to another episode of Straight No Chaser. This is Sinbad, and I'm here with Chief, and you know, we got sophisticated Shannon in the house. You know, we got to play that song. We got to do it 2 more times now. We got to. All right, sophisticated Shannon, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Today we're going to talk about some interesting stuff. You know, we got to talk about COVID, but we also got to talk about prenups, right? We're going to talk about prenups. Now, what, you know, prenups at this time or prenups in general. So Shannon had a story that she was talking about, and she said, I think we ought to talk about these prenups. Said, because there was an interesting story a while ago, some of you may have heard about it, but where someone wanted his fiance to sign a prenup, and they had talked about a prenup, and everybody was cool with it at one point, and then they weren't. And then when she refused to sign the prenup, she got left at the altar. So am I telling the story right, Shannon?
You telling the story right.
Okay, all right. In a nutshell, I mean, I'm sure there's more to it, but to help us sort some of this stuff out, and we've got an attorney, Josh Gillicay, who's did I do it right, Josh? Did I do it right? Did I do it justice? Did I get the name right? I did. I got him right, Josh.
You got it right. You got it right.
It flowed right off my tongue.
It rolled right off of your tongue.
That's right. So, because you got to get folks' names right, because you know if you don't get people's name right, if that don't matter to you. You know, that just sets the tone for the whole rest of this conversation. If people are like, you know what? The man ain't take time to respect my name, then I'm not going ahead and talk to him like he got good sense. But this brother is an attorney, a very good attorney. But we're going to be we're not talking specifically about, you know, we're going to be at a higher level. Just what's the disclaimer, Chief? The disclaimer is we are not advocating one way or the other, but we just thought it was an interesting topic to kind of tackle, and we thought because neither Chief nor Shannon, sophisticated as she is, nor myself, Sinbad, we are not lawyers, nor do we play them on TV.
No, sir.
So we know nothing about the law, and right now none of us know nothing about prenups.
That's right, and also,
as I know,
and also,
something has changed.
That's right. And before we get started, we also want to say that you can certainly, if you are looking at prenups, certainly we recommend that you talk to an attorney in your state or your city about your particular situation. So we're just talking about it generally. So just want to put that out there as well.
That's correct. This is not a commercial.
No.
But before we get started, we have someone here for like 5 to 10 minutes. She's going to give a quick spiel about what's going on in the community this weekend. We have Janet Hurd here to talk about Parents Citywide, and she's going to give us a brief information about herself and what the organization has going on this weekend.
Okay.
Ms. Hurd, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, I did.
All right.
How's everybody doing?
Good. Welcome to the show.
Well, thanks. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Yes, my name's Janet Hurd, and I am the president of Parents Citywide. And we've been here locally in Las Vegas for about 20 years. We're coming from out of the Bay Area in San Francisco. And we've had various different types of components of our program. And during the holiday, we feed about 500 children and their families that we target through the school district that are on Title I. And what we do basically, we partner with various corporate sponsors and community-based organizations, And we feed and give these low-income families, and it's really challenging now with, COVID-19. I think everybody's being challenged at this point. So we are providing for people that really are in need. So this is our 20th annual toy and food drive that we're doing. We are still accepting donations, hopefully monetary donations, of course. And it's going to be over at 4100 West Charleston Boulevard over at the Elks Lodge. So, of course, with the COVID-19, we have to follow those rules and regulations because it is inside of a building. So we can't have any more than 50 people, but we basically service 20 families per hour. So we're able to distance ourselves in a safe way, get them in, get them serviced, get them back out, and then bring in our other parents. So we do service schools and community-based organizations and also populations that are in churches as well. So thank you for letting me come on and give that information. Thank you, Shannon.
Yeah. And she's muted, so we're going to interpret what Shannon is saying. She's saying thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Miss Hurd.
You're welcome.
Nubian 5 have partnered with her this year, and we'll be out there this year as well to help you distribute toys. Thanks for coming on.
Fabulous.
We truly appreciate you.
Not a problem, dear. Okay, thank you very much.
And thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thanks for the work you do.
Bye. And happy holidays.
Yeah.
Happy holidays.
So, Chief, Shannon? Give us a better breakdown of the story. And Chief, we worldwide, so we gotta let folks know because there may be folks on the East Coast saying, right, "Where's that street?"
Right, and that,
and that's on the West Coast.
Yeah, and that event. That's right. They're gonna be driving around
all over the place looking for it.
Driving around Baltimore looking for this thing that's not
blowing
even
up, cussing at the GPS.
That's right.
Right. Yeah. Well, that is in Las Vegas, Nevada, just in case anyone didn't know. That's where we are.
Nationwide.
I do need everybody to push that share button and start sharing our page, our live feed tonight before we get started. The story was basically a famous basketball player was about to get married. I want to say it took him a year to plan the wedding. He spent X amount of money to plan the wedding. And they went in and saw the lawyer because before you get started with the prenup, both parties have to come together and say what they want in the prenup. From what I understand, I'm not for sure because I don't have a prenup. But they did all of that, and she said what she wanted, and he said what he wanted. So the end result, they was ready to sign. She didn't sign the prenup, and the day of the wedding, he canceled it because she still didn't sign it. And I guess after he canceled it, he went to go see her, and she was crying hysterically, and he didn't still go ahead with it because at that point he was like, "You in distress, and this could easily get thrown out of court." So that's pretty much how the story went. So we just wanted to talk about it and see what everybody else have to say about it as well.
So they didn't get married?
No, they didn't get married.
Are they? Wow. So
she was left standing at the altar.
Wow. Just because she didn't sign the prenup.
Because she didn't sign the prenup.
Okay.
She agreed to beforehand.
She agreed to beforehand.
Wow.
And then auntie and them and cousins and mama and them say, "He make how much?"
Right.
You better don't sign that, girl. You better don't sign that.
But she agreed upon it. So who's in the wrong? So that's pretty much where we're at. Who falls?
That's right. At least that ain't got no place to have a barbecue. They'd have had a nice big house to have a barbecue. And now they ain't got nothing. There'd have been a couple of
2 kids
cars.
later, right?
Yeah, she God, dog. Because he'd have messed something up before the prenup. He'd have jacked something up so that would have violated the prenup. She'd have been good. But I don't know.
Right.
What do I know? You see, this is why we got somebody who makes.
So that's why, right? That's why we have Josh here.
That's why we have Josh.
That's right.
He's like, these fools, I don't even want to be associated.
That's right. That's right. So as we told you all, to our local audience and our international audience, listen to us on Spreaker.com and also those listening on iHeartRadio and also on Facebook. We have Joshua Gellicay, Esquire, and he is a outstanding attorney, and he's just going to talk to us generically about the prenup. And so, Josh, can you kind of tell us what is a prenup?
Well, certainly. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be a participant in today's show.
Oh, thank you.
Straight talk, no chase, and that's what we're going to give to you tonight.
Yes, sir.
As it pertains to a prenup. One of the things that sophisticated Shannon questioned is who's at fault in the scenario that she posed. And the reality is no one's at fault. They were both within their rights to do what they did based on the situation and circumstance. And to provide just a general overview of a prenuptial agreement, the pre is very critical.
Mm-hmm.
Pre meaning before. Prenuptial agreements are contracts, agreements entered between spouses, husband and wife, or I guess really you would say fiancés who are planning to become husband and wife, or in today's day, husband and husband, or wife and wife, or what have you. But nonetheless, planning to be married with one another. And in those plans, they enter an agreement that dictates and determines what would happen should the marriage not work, and how assets and property and certain scenarios and things would be handled and divided.
Mm-hmm.
You said how would this handle? Assets. Oh,
yes.
Marriage time. Critical that a prenuptial agreement is executed prior to the marriage, because once the marriage has taken place, you can no longer have a prenuptial agreement because the nuptials, the marriage, had now been put in place. So the pre-component to the prenuptial agreement is critical. When you are executing a prenup, for each party to get their own counsel, each party to look and determine what they'd be potentially gaining through the prenuptial agreement, as well as what they could potentially be giving up through the prenuptial agreement. And it's important for both parties to have a good understanding of what those assets are. So, for example, in Nevada is a community property state, meaning once you become married, every asset that is acquired by the couple after they've become married becomes a community asset. In other words, it's part of the marriage and no longer just an individual asset. Mm-hmm. However, the assets that you obtain prior to marriage are what we call separate property, meaning those are assets that can be maintained by the individual, even though they've gotten married. That still is their own asset that doesn't necessarily become part of the marriage. However, oftentimes, depending on the length of the marriage, those separate assets become commingled. It becomes very difficult to determine which asset was obtained prior to marriage and which asset was obtained subsequent to marriage, especially when you're dealing with bank accounts and monies. When you have monies going back and forth between the spouses, it becomes very difficult to track and determine what assets are community assets and which assets are separate assets. So one way you can determine, or really one way you can minimize the issue that may ensue upon divorce and dividing up assets, is through the prenuptial agreement and writing out in detail what should something happen. What are the assets that are coming from each spouse into the marriage, and how those assets are to be dealt with should the marriage end in divorce. Now, this can be very difficult conversation that needs to take place, right? It's a very uncomfortable conversation, let me call it that, especially when you have a big gap in value and big gap in assets. If you have one spouse who, say, earns $30,000 a year, and you have another spouse who, say, earns $500,000 a year, and maybe, a multi-millionaire on paper, more than likely in that scenario, the spouse with the additional assets would be the one who would be seeking the prenuptial agreement. So I would imagine, and what it sounds like in the scenario that sophisticated Shannon posed, was the basketball player, the NBA basketball player, had quite a bit of money, and he was trying to protect